Everyone, welcome to the June 13th meeting of the Planning Commission. Glad to have everyone here. Mr. Dan, could we please have roll call?
Sure. Joe Chappell. Don McBride.
Here.
Renee Spinetto.
Here.
Chris Bryant.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Okay. Before we go too much farther, I would like to discuss very briefly the passing of Vern Ogden. He was our Planning Commission director. He died very suddenly, unexpected. He was a good person, had a wide depth of knowledge, pulling both of those two words together, but he will be sorely missed. Hopefully we will still continue to have fun, as he always brought a good degree of humor to the board meetings, and I hope that we can continue in his good name. So with that, we will continue on and call this meeting to order. First item of business is approval of the previous minutes from April 11th. Dan?
I was going to say there's only, boy.
We have a little feedback. Yeah.
There's just the two members that were here at the previous meeting. However, since it's a majority of the ones that are present, they could still approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, I move we approve the minutes from April 11th.
Second.
All right, and
And
so say,
vote call? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I was going to say, Don McBride,
Yes.
Chris Bryant.
Yes.
All right, and Renee was not here.
I wasn't here.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Okay, next item on the agenda is application number 19-005, which is an appeal to Article 22, Section 4-423C on the residential appearance standards, which would allow for a single-car enclosed garage for 3 proposed homes on Harrison Avenue, which is in the Oak Park subdivision, Block 3, lots 27 and 28, and lots 29 and 30, and lots 31 and 32. Let's see, can we have staff report, please, Dan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As you indicated, these properties are located on East Harrison Avenue, and there's 3 properties that the applicant is looking at building a home. They're each 50 foot by 140 foot, which is a 7,000 square foot lot. Article 22 of our residential appearance standards requires a 2-car garage. The applicant is here to get an appeal to that to allow for just a 1-stall garage. One of the issues that has arisen is the limited buildable area with a 50-foot wide lot, and then the setbacks, it only gives 40 feet of building width. And so to put a 2-car garage, especially attached, would make it nearly impossible. So having said that, staff believes that, well, we recommend approval, and one of the things that staff looks at is it is an opportunity to where the city would get some infill development. It's always good to have your infill development. You have existing streets, utilities, and otherwise, and having a home with a 1-stall garage is still better than no home being able to be built on these properties. So, like I said, with that, staff would recommend that the appeal be approved and only require a 1-stall garage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our applicant, Brian Summerall, is here this evening representing Hillcrest Development. Mr. Summerall, would you like to come forward and add any comments to that and possibly, explain a little bit of what you have in mind with the 3 homes?
Well, I'm proposing this for some smaller homes and
Great.
to hopefully possibly rejuvenate an older neighborhood that nothing has been built for quite some time in that area. And I just think there's a demand for some smaller homes, not necessarily, I believe, I've been told that the minimum on a home is 700 square feet. With 700 square feet, the way it's written now, as I understand it, you would still need a two-car garage. I'm proposing building a bigger home than that, but the extra space on the garages just don't make it feasible. So that's pretty much,
Okay,
What
that
I-
sounds good. I'd like to open it up for discussion among the commission members, if you have any questions.
I really don't have any comments.
Okay.
Do you plan on renting these homes, or will they be owner
it will be
occupied?
for sale.
Okay.
I haven't seen a site plan as yet on that, but I'm wondering where you're going to place the garage. If you go ahead and get the one-car garage, I'll be honest, generally, we prefer to see the front of the garage recessed back a little from the front elevation of the front of the house, so that the garage doesn't carry the same appearance weight, value weight, whatever you'd want with that. So what do you have in plan?
It was my understanding that the garage couldn't be out in front of the house
Correct.
at any point, but I was assuming that maybe the garage and the porch would be the same. I have not picked out a floor plan yet, to be honest
Okay.
with you, because, well, first things first.
The garage and
And,
house have the same face line.
I was thinking that to just be even either with the porch or with the house. I don't know of any reason to back the garage up,
Okay.
but
I'm going, Dan, back through the residential appearance standards. As you go through the development process, take a look at the design standards. We have some both for commercial and for residential. And one of the items in there, it says that garage doors must be recessed from the front plane of the primary facade. And if visible, not be visible from the street. And I know from going past the site this morning, that's going to be exceedingly difficult and not possible in this case. But as you develop your plans, recessing the garage door back so that the most prominent feature would be the elevation of the front of the house.
well, if that's what you prefer, I didn't know that, but.
Okay.
Is the site plan part of the, as he works through the process, will that be reviewed in-house?
Yes.
And so all of those standards will be in place during that review process?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this is basically to make a variance, if you will, on the garage issue?
That is correct, because all the other standards will still apply.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I just didn't want you being surprised as if
Okay.
you walk forward with your plans and say, hey, here we go. But
They're set for review anytime you build anything.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been my experience, so,
yeah,
you know, I can't change anything that you prefer that I do, so.
very good. Well, given that, are there any final comments amongst the board?
I'd just like to say thank you for investing in Guthrie, and I'm really encouraged by infill development because, as Dan said, it's a more efficient use of our existing infrastructure, and it's also will likely be considered, a safe, attractive, and affordable housing option for many of our individuals and families here in Guthrie. And so I do have some questions maybe for further down the road about the standards requiring a two-car garage, because so few of our properties, especially in historic Guthrie, have two-car garages. And I think we would like to encourage folks to live here that don't necessarily need two cars in order to get around. And so alleviating that burden might be wise going forward, so.
Yeah, and just real quick, it's on my radar, and it's one of the things that we will be looking into and bringing forth through the process and that, because there's a few things we would like to, like you said, help out and really understand the kind of different diversities Guthrie has with housing and housing types.
Okay, great.
Do I have a motion, please?
I move we approve as noted, as submitted, yes.
Great. And we have a second,
Yep.
correct?
Okay.
If you can take the
Sure.
count.
Renee Spinetto,
Yes.
Chris Bryant,
Yes.
Don McBride. All right, passes 3-0.
We look forward to seeing the construction. I think it's a great idea.
And this now goes to city council, correct?
No,
No.
this, yeah, it's just, it's similar to a variance.
Gotcha.
The difference is it goes to you versus the Board of Adjustment, so
Right.
yeah, it's done.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's going to be a great addition to the town. Okay, let's see here. Next item on the agenda is discussion and clarification on the application of Article 22, Section 4-423G, which is the residential appearance standard specifically regarding fences. So with that, I will turn the show over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. As you indicated, we're looking for some clarification on some recent fences that have been built. When I was going through the code, there's a couple things that have come up. One, I noticed that there was some inconsistency. We generally go off the most recent that is adopted, but some of the past stuff wasn't amended, probably adds to the confusion, but that's something that staff is aware of and will take down the road. But one of the things that has come up is you'll see the pictures that are on the screen as well as what was provided in your staff report, is we have fences that are wood framed, and then the interior part of it is, it's not even a woven or what would be normally a woven wire. It's more of a welded wire type thing. And so we as staff really could not, I guess, decide whether it is okay or it isn't okay, because it isn't specifically outlined in our code. Now, there are portions of the code that say no wire and that, which, you know, obviously if it were all a chain link or a completely all woven wire type situation, it would be clear. But again, we have wooden posts and for the most part, a good appearing fence. One of the other things that staff would like to point out, and this kind of goes back to maybe something down the line we'll bring back, is especially in the front yard, the way our code is set up is, you know, any type of solid masonry, any type of solid vinyl, brick, anything like that is basically prohibited because it has to have a opacity of at least 30%, meaning you have to see through it. And for all intents and purposes, it kind of leaves, you know, kind of a white picket fence, for a lack of better thing, as the only option. This type of fencing, actually, staff feels is a pretty decent option for that. So having said that, staff feels that the appearance would be beneficial to the community and is not bad. However, we wanted to leave that for your direction, clarification, and then based on what direction or clarification you gave to us, we would enforce the code accordingly. So I'll leave it back to the commission. Thank you.
All right. I know the design standards have been in effect, I believe it was 2009. And yes, there is a need for some updating and such. And there was a long, extensive review of what needed to be put in it. And it was a product of the Planning Commission at that time. And I think, as with any standard, there's always time when those kinds of things need to be reviewed. One of the items that became abundantly clear at that time when it was gone through, if memory serves correctly, was the desire not to have a metal type fence specifically within the residential area. And to put it mildly, there was a lot of discussion and consternation and such about that. And I think that's where the most discussion and heartache probably came from. Given the historic nature of Guthrie, what the Planning Commission, I believe, was trying to do at the time was to come up with some kind of fence solution that would go along with the historic nature of the town. Now, I realize the downtown specifically is what's most historic, and then as you proceed to get farther out from the hub, it's a little different. You know, the density is less and so on, and oftentimes each place takes on a different decision, and there is a need for consistency, but there is a need also to determine what the specific needs are of that home that may be sitting on 5 acres, you know, something like that. And that's something that has to be addressed within the design guidelines overall. That particular shot that you had up there, I had not seen that kind of fence before. I'll be honest and you know, bare my soul here. Metal fences are not my cup of tea any which way, and I think most people probably know that, but I'm open, okay? I want to make sure that whatever we do within Guthrie, specifically where the homes are, you know, 100 years old, that we're able to maintain the consistency of what was prevalent 100 years ago. In new developments and such, where we're bringing in new homes and such, you know, maybe there may be some leniency in there. And perhaps one of the things that we address and discuss here further, that areas that are within the larger historic district, which is beyond the capital town site district, areas that are within the overlay districts, that they maybe have more stringent residential housing, fencing needs, and other things could be looked at for areas that are on the outside of the larger historic area. That's my take on it. And now that I've given an epistle here, I welcome other conflicting sides, or hopefully sides that agree, but we need to discuss. Gentlemen, jump right in.
That's a good-looking fence, even though it is a wire fence.
Well, that's why staff is asking our direction, input, guidance, whatever.
If he hadn't finished it out like he did, it wouldn't be so neat looking.
Right.
I have seen this style of fence more often. I even saw it on HGTV on Fixer Upper. They were restoring a historic home in Waco, Texas, and they used this kind of fence. Also, there was in Seattle, they used this kind of fence. And I think it's the best alternative to chain link fence. And I think what you see mostly when you're driving by or walking by is the wood framing of it, and the wire part is almost invisible.
It just stands out.
Yeah, and I wonder, you know, how historic is a 6-foot stockade fence? Even though, and it's wooden, but you know, I think picket fences are ideal in the historic areas, but I think this is another good option in my personal opinion. And I do think that it encourages neighborly interaction, especially in the front. You can kind of just see through it, and it doesn't block the view of the front of the home. And even in a backyard setting, it encourages, it kind of gives you a country feel, which Guthrie is that kind of community, and it also encourages interaction with one's neighbors.
Do you have to approve fencing now?
We don't have a fence permit.
So they can just start whatever they want?
Yep, yeah, there's no permits required. So most of these obviously come through us through code enforcement, so if somebody does put up, you know, chain link or any type of fencing that isn't allowed by code, the only time we really end up knowing about it is if we get a complaint through code enforcement and we go. These fences obviously came up and it was primarily through our code enforcement, Bill Darby and that. And so that was, as I indicated, we had even staff going, this really isn't a horrible looking fence. It has a wood structure frame. It happens to have the wire metal. And so again, we felt that it would be appropriate to bring it to the commission, let you guys decide, give clarification, and then, like I said, we'll go from there. Obviously, if it is something that you say is appropriate, we will continue to allow it, but then it would also translate into when we do update our design criteria to have that included as well.
Well, Renee doesn't like wire, but that's a pretty good looking fence.
I have to
Somebody
admit,
tear it down.
yeah, I have to admit, I do not like wire, but mainly it's the chain link. That's probably the best looking wire fence
Well,
I've
yeah,
seen.
I hate chain link fence.
Yeah,
Yeah, if we can encourage this along with some of our other conforming styles, then I think it would improve the appearance
yeah.
of Guthrie.
Because I think you're absolutely right. In terms of neighborhood communication, we want to encourage people interacting, and if you can see in, then, yeah, that accomplishes that fact. What's your take, Dan, on possibly creating either a small fee or no fee fence permit that would require people to maybe bring a photograph of what it is they want to put up or something like that? So, you use that old phrase, they're not coming in for forgiveness, but rather permission.
It could be a possibility. And again, one of the things that I would like to do, and again, this goes back to kind of the design standards, and it's somewhat already been done with the building, metal building issue, is to look at kind of creating overlays of design standards for different areas of our community. Because, as you guys kind of indicated here, and as we all know, you have newer subdivisions that are there, and then you have the, Guthrie proper, been there since the, turn of the century, and that, and the areas are obviously very unique and different, and, even myself, I don't know if I want to see a lot of modern homes replace what you see along a Noble or what. But again, in the newer subdivisions, it's not a bad idea. And right now, that kind of seems to be the case with our design standards. It's a blanket effect, and it may not be that. So that's something that is it something I'm doing? Oh, okay. That I would like to do down the road. The other thing is with the permits is, my first thought is, I don't know about that. Only because fences are one of those issues that in most communities, in most areas, in that you do not have a permit for fences. You have your particular design standards in that. And also one of the things that you do with fencing permits is you start to get potential neighbor issues. So if we do have I could probably do without it, I talk loud. That one worked better? Okay. If we start to put in more of the, I guess, a fencing permit, I think we could potentially run into problems where now, the kind of neighbor fencing issues and that could come to the forefront of the city, which normally is not something a city deals with. It is a private civil issue in that, so that would be my only concern. Because a lot of times, even though we may be approving the appearance, a lot of people may take it as we're saying where it's going to be located and how it's going to be put in, and everything else is also approved. And so it's something I guess we could look at, but I would have some hesitation because of that.
Okay.
I wonder if we could follow our similar overlay that we used with the metal building or the what's the term we use for accessory building standards?
Yeah.
Because we've mapped out a map of, this was right before you arrived here. We went through a lengthy process of outlining some corridors along Noble Avenue and Division, and then the most historic areas of town, and then everywhere else. And so that might be a helpful tool to apply the same kinds of boundaries.
Yeah, no, and thank you, because you're exactly right. Probably those overlays would stay. It would just, again, we would have specific design standard, more full design
Yeah, yeah.
standards for those particular areas, rather than just right now having it metal buildings. Yeah.
I think that'd be a great idea if we addressed it as you look over the entire rewrite of the standards, is doing something like that, you know, where it's by geographic area and it gets increasingly either stronger or more lenient
Yeah.
as you go.
Yeah, yeah, because as you guys would, you know, just like with the metal buildings, when you're out in a part of town where you're on, 30 acres or whatever, and, you're far from it, chain link and metal buildings probably aren't an issue, but when you're in the heart of the community, it becomes a bigger issue.
Well, when you get on 50-foot lots.
Yeah, well, yeah,
His
Yeah.
situation.
no, right,
most
exactly.
of 'em,
It,
and
yeah,
you're sitting there with a fence that's 5 foot that neither neighbor can take care of their part of the yard hardly with a lawnmower, unless you tie it onto the back of the house. Because you got a 5 foot, so the other house is 5, so you got 10 foot
Yeah.
between two houses.
Yeah.
so I guess, coming back to the commission, would you guys, again, I guess, give direction or clarification that this is appropriate fencing, and thus, if it comes about, we can obviously say it is appropriate, and the same thing if somebody comes in and asks if they can use that type of fencing, we can give them a concurrence?
I think it looks good.
Yeah, I would second that motion to treat it
Yeah.
as conforming to the standards.
Okay, yeah, and that's the thing, I don't necessarily need a formal determination or what, I just needed a majority to, clarification or direction, and so that's what staff will proceed at this point is, look at those as being fitting to the code per your direction or determination.
Will you be able to put on your list of, 147,000 things to do, bringing some of the design standards up to date and applying okay.
Yes, because again, it is on my, list. Like you said, I don't know timing-wise, because there's obviously a lot. I have a lot of things that I would like to bring back, and most of it, I think, would be for, is for the benefit of the community, and such. And, we also, as a community, need a updated comprehensive plan. We need an updated zoning ordinance. There's a lot of stuff we need. Unfortunately, all that costs money. So, some of it we can bring back, again, like design standards or portions of the code. The other stuff we'll have to kind of see, but, it'll definitely be coming back at later dates, and it'll probably be like a lot of it where it'll be in the form of workshops and all of that to kind of hash out the details, and then eventually get to the public hearing process to, get formal recommendations from the commission and eventually approval from the council.
Okay, I think that.
Perfect, yes.
Perfect.
We got what we need. Thank you very much.
Super. Last thing, any particular staff comments, Dan?
No, the only thing I wanted to add, thank you, is the same thing with the passing of Vern Ogden. He was also, even from a staff perspective, I wasn't here as long, but I did get the pleasure of meeting with him and having many talks with him, and he definitely was an asset to the community, and even staff appreciated what he had done on the commission, as well as input and discussions we had. So again, he will be sorely missed.
Yes.
Yeah, and my deepest condolences to his lovely wife and family, and we have
Yeah,
very large shoes to fill.
Yes.
He would come out to my asphalt plant and spend about 2 hours talking about asphalt and concrete.
That sounds like
Yeah, that sounds like
You've been
Vern.
an old concrete man.
That sounds like Vern, and I think we're going to miss that. But yeah, definitely. Well, with that, I do believe we are set, and I will call the